Rosh Boker Or. Wanted to share with you a beautiful Dvar Torah on this week's Parashat. We're going to ask ourselves a question. And the question that we're going to ask ourselves is, what caused Yitro to convert? Something had to happen that caused this entire change in Yitro's life. Remember that Yitro was a comment to all the Avodah Zarahs. He tried every single one in the book. Every type of an Avodah Zarah, he did. So therefore, obviously, there has to be something here that he saw. So Rashi says, Ma shemua shama'u ba, what did he hear? That he heard, right? And he came. He heard Kriyat Yam Suf and Milchemet Amalek. Now we ask ourselves the following question. How do they go together? How both of them together does it cause that all of a sudden, right, that it's going to cause an action that he's going to come to convert? What? I understand Kriyat Yam Suf, it makes sense. This is something that, that a godly thing. Imagine the miracles of what it is that every single nation heard about Kriyat Yam Suf. Every body of water split. They say that even if you had a cup of water that split into everything split, it makes sense. Everyone was afraid. Listen, Kriyat Yam Suf, I could understand. But what's the concept of Amalek? Right? The Rashi, in the name of the Midrash, is not Misapek. He's adding. The second thing was Milchemet Amalek. Like, I've got a doubt. It was either Kriyat Yam Suf or Amalek. No. And Kriyat Yam Suf we can understand. What's the explanation now of Amalek? What's going on now? Yeah? So he comes and he says like this. But he's actually saying, what is Milchemet Amalek? What could actually come and say that you have such a small nation, that they're chatzufim. Chatzufim means they have chutzpah. They have audacity. They just saw all the miracles that God just did for the Jewish nation. And they're going to come and they're going to fight against the Jewish nation. That's lekareret ambatya. They wanted to come and cool off the bathtub. Right? We know that if you have very, very hot water, you have water. And you want to cool it down. What happens? If somebody goes in, they get burnt. But then they cool down the water for the rest of the people. Yeah? So the first one that went in, he got burnt. That was Amalek. He got burnt. But it cools it off. So now if anybody else wants to jump in or wants to attack, they can attack the Jewish nation. So it's true. But what did they see? Another thing is, Yitro, he was Zocher. We actually have a parasha on his name. Right? How do we understand that? A person that does an action, that he's leaving everything that he has, and he comes from his own to come to convert, right? During that time, Am Yisrael were the ones on pursuit. They were the ones, they were running away. Yeah, they were running away. So what's going on? But still, how are they going to be Zocheh, that Yitro, that parasha is going to be on his name? It's a big parasha. Kabbalat Torah is in his parasha. He was obviously Zocheh, that since he accepted upon himself Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim to become a Jew, so therefore that's the one that we're going to accept upon ourselves, the Torah, right, to become Jews. So if you imagine what it is, it's a very powerful parasha. Yeah? So he comes and he says, so what was the Limud Ikari? And he comes and he says like this. We have to actually understand it with another question. Yitro, already in Parashat Shemot, he was already Kohen On. Right? Just like Rashi says over there, because he left all the Avodah Zarot, right? And what happened was that they were going against his daughters. They were going to come, they were going to kill his daughters. So it comes even more. If you already abandoned Avodah Zarahs, so you were already close to the truth, so why didn't you come immediately to the Jewish nation? In Mitzrayim already you should come to the... Remember, Moshe Rabbeinu ran away from Egypt, and he went to Kohen On. Who was Kohen On? Midian, who was Yitro. And why was it? Because he already abandoned Avodah Zarah. So if he already abandoned Avodah Zarah then, why didn't he convert then? Why did he wait for Amalek? Right? What's going on over here? But rather he comes and he says like this. He says the father-in-law of Yitro was a very deep thinker. He had a lot of ideology, was very, very deep. All his actions, he used to do very slowly, but he used to think about every step of the way. He wouldn't do things quickly. He wasn't just jump. No. Think. So because of that, every Avodah Zarah, he was choker until he used to find the sheker. Once he found the falsehood in every Avodah Zarah, he would immediately abandon them. By every Avodah Zarah, he would find it. So that's what happened was he left all the Avodah Zarahs. And he was the Kohen On. Because he was always the one that was looking for the truth. Leman ha'emet, he was able to pay anything, even though they were going to go against his daughters. Doesn't matter. Because he wanted the truth. That's what he wanted. But even with this, right, Yitro running away from all the falsehood, he still didn't think to convert and to be part of the Jewish nation. He thought that he could be a goy tov, a goy which is shomer the mitzvot. He believes in the God of Israel. Then he doesn't, even if he wanted to do the tayyip, he didn't have to become Jewish. That's what he was always thinking. And he could be be'emunah shlema and everything. And that was his ideology. And that's why he was actually accompanying the Jewish nation. But he just thought, listen, he could be a good goy, right? A goy or heavy Israel, and that's it. But what happened during the time of Amalek? During the war of Amalek, he recognized for one moment what is the tzura amitit of a goy, which is the opposite of a Jew. A goy, even if he sees all the miracles in the world, even if they cause him to shiver, to tremble, to do whatever it is, he won't put it to his heart. It could cause him just for a moment to waken himself up and wow, look at this miracle. And he could, but he'll become an animal. And again, in 2 minutes afterwards, just like it was beforehand, with all the ta'avot, with all the desires and the lusts and the vengeances and everything. And we're going to take a few different cases, right? Examples. One of them was a very big martzeh. He was a very big lecturer in the land, right? He went with his mother to England, right? There was hundreds of British, right? All of a sudden, his mother, which she's an elderly lady, she's sick, she falls. Lemarbe Pele, he's shocked that even though, right, everyone saw, but they just continued. Nobody came to help him. And here the question was, where's the British, you have to be, nice and polite and etiquette and this and that. Where is it? Yeah, nobody cares. An elderly woman just fell and nothing. All of a sudden, a Jew comes and he sees somebody that he needs help. He's not going to continue, right? He cares. So what's going to happen? He's going to go and he's going to help, right? That's what's always going to happen. In another story, we're talking about the subway, right? This is in US. All of a sudden, an elderly, right, a Jew fell, right, and he broke his leg. So now he's right now on the train tracks. There's an elderly Jew breaking his leg. He's on the train tracks and he's screaming, right? And all of a sudden they come and they see that there's a train coming. So that means if somebody's not going to come and they're not going to help him, yeah, that's it. Kaddish, there's nothing to do with this guy. An elderly man, he fell on the train tracks, broke his leg. Nobody's going to help him. That's it. All of a sudden you have this big African-American guy, big guy come. He jumps on the train tracks, picks up the Jew as if that he's picking up like a feather, right? And he goes up, he jumps up. Mamash, he saved his life. This Jew, right? He was a very affluent Jew. He was a very wealthy Jew. He wanted to pay the goy. The goy just saved his life. So he wants to pay him with thousands and hundreds of dollars and everything. So he starts speaking to the goy and he tells him, you just saved me. The Kushi, right? The African-American comes and he explains, listen, I work in a restaurant, right? Which is a few stops, further down. I make a few dollars per hour, whatever it is. So therefore, if you were killed, right, it would have been a backup and everything. I would have probably lost, whatever it is. So therefore, I would have lost $5. So in order not to lose those $5, I jumped down, picked you up, so that way the trains could continue going, right? So that way I would be able to get the money. So therefore, I did it for $5. That's what he went, and that's what he tells this Jew. Now we understand, right, what's happening with Amalek. What does that mean? The Jew, right, when he's coming to help out, he understands that. You guys all remember the famous story that, I don't remember who it was, that went and he told over that there was a guy that he had a broken tire, right? And the Jew comes and he stops, he puts the car on the side, right? And all of a sudden what happens is, right, he comes and he says, right, he comes and he starts speaking to the guy, and the guy has a kippah. And he comes and he tells him, I don't understand, but are you Jewish? He says, for sure not. So he said, so why do you have a kippah on? He says, because I know that if I put the kippah on, for sure somebody will stop and help me. What does that mean? They understand, they know what's going on. So because of that, he comes and he says, this is what's going on with Amalek. Amalek saw like everybody else. It could be they were afraid at the beginning, but the maskana he didn't do. If right now they have such a big God, right, that he could come and he could wipe away everybody in the water and kriyat suf, right? So therefore that's a siman that it's emet. that he could do everything, right? And if it's Bemet, he wants to bring them to Eretz, who's Amalek thinking now that they're going to stop them, right? What, they're going to go out to war against them? What are they doing, right? But rather, the nature of the goy is that he's got this nekama, he's got vengeance, he's got tava, desires to do war, and therefore he wants to show the Amma Yehudi his strength, even though they're completely blind with the reality. They just didn't realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu could wipe them out just like the Kriyat Suf, just like he did to the Egyptians. That's what Yitro saw, and he was shocked. Yitro saw, how could Amalek be so blind? How could it be that means that what? Every goy could be the same thing. Why? Because he doesn't have a nefesh elokit. He doesn't have it inside him. He stays a goy, and therefore he could stay so closed off and so everything, right? If this is the reality that's going to happen to the one that stays as a goy, so Yitro didn't lose a minute. He says, I'm not going to stay a goy, not even for 1 minute. He runs to the Amma Yehudi and he says, I have to come and I have to become Jewish. Why? Because the Leva Yehudi, they're ichbatim, they care. They are rachmanim, they are merciful, they're levavi, they're with hearts. Lemaskana nifla, they come and he says, Kriyat Suf and Milchemet Amalek. It's both of them together came and showed Yitro, this is what I have to do. Because now that I saw Kriyat Suf, it wasn't just enough. I saw Amalek, what happened afterwards. Now I see what's going on. And not because of that, because the Amalek, they didn't put it on their heart. And that's exactly what they needed to do. Right? The Balatanya comes and explains Amalek Ruchani is Am-Malek. What is Am-Malek? Melika. What is Melika? Melika is when you come and you take your nail and you cut off the head of the bird. So to Amalek, Mekomo Ruchani is always in the back of the neck, right? Between the moach and the lev, between the heart and the brain, right? Because it's skilled to stop. That even though you know something in the brain, it doesn't go to your heart. He doesn't want it to go to your heart. That's the purpose of Amalek. So it comes out the entire mitziyut as Jews is Hashava Lev. We have to place it to our hearts. To place it to our hearts. That's the exact purpose of a Jew. So since Yitro understood that the Yisod of Am Yehudi, the foundation of the Jewish nation, is putting it to your heart, because of that, he went and he did it in this week's Parashat, and therefore the entire Parashat of Kabbalat Torah is called on him, Parashat Yitro, because every single Jew at the time of Kabbalat Torah has to put in his heart this message. Everything that we do in life, we have to place it to our heart. Even if we accept upon ourselves the entire Torah, we could learn it, and we could accept it, and we could do everything. If we don't place it on our heart, so then we don't do anything. And that's the explanation of Vashivota elevavecha. You have to place it in our heart. It's in your mouth and it's in your heart to fulfill it, to do it. That's the message that we learn from Parashat Yitro. And that's why it's so important for us to understand that this, in essence, is Yitro. Yitro is understanding the deepness, the thought, because he could have been a good goy, a good goy, tzaddikim, everything that you want. But he didn't want it for 1 moment, because he saw what it was, that what the difference between the Jewish neshama is and what it is for being a goy for the rest of his life.